I cut off my parents for favoring the golden child. They paid my girlfriend to spy on me, so I exposed them all at our engagement party. I've always been the type of person who wanted to build something from scratch. My own empire, so to speak. Real estate had been good to me, but after grinding day in and day out, showing houses and closing deals, I realized I was ready for something bigger, something entirely my own. About 6 months ago, I made the bold decision to quit my job and dive headfirst into the entrepreneurial life. No more showing up in a suit and smiling at clients all day. It was time to be my own boss. I vividly remember sitting on the edge of my bed the night before I handed in my resignation, scrolling through my phone, looking at motivational quotes to pump myself up for the big move. It wasn't just cold feet. It felt more like stepping off a ledge, hoping I had a parachute strapped on. But I needed this change. The thrill of starting my own business had been gnawing at me, and I knew if I didn't act now, I'd probably never do it. The morning I quit, my boss didn't take it well. He thought I was making a huge mistake, throwing away a lucrative career for some pipe dream. But I had thought this through carefully. I had been saving up for this moment, meticulously tucking away every commission I earned over the past few years, preparing for the day I'd step out on my own. After quitting, I set up a small office in my living room, nothing fancy, just a desk, my laptop, and piles of research. I spent days and nights mapping out my business plan, from potential clients to market strategies. I was determined to start a property development firm. Unlike simply selling properties, I wanted to create them, turning visions into reality. Realizing I'd need more than just enthusiasm and savings to kick things off, I considered bringing in some heavy hitters. My parents. My dad has been running a car dealership with his brother for nearly 30 years, and my mom handles all their accounts. Their experience in managing a successful business could be the backbone I needed. Plus, having them on board meant more than just financial support. Their expertise was invaluable. So, I planned to pitch my idea at our next family dinner, a regular weekly gathering where we catch up. That week, I was more nervous than usual. I rehearsed my pitch repeatedly, even while driving to their place. I didn't just want them to invest, I wanted them to believe in this as much as I did. Dinner was as normal as ever. Mom made lasagna, Dad talked about his latest golf game, but I was sweating bullets. When everyone was nearly done eating, I cleared my throat and decided it was now or never. So, I've got something big to share, I started, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I quit my job. I'm starting my own business in property development. I've been working on this plan for months now. The table went silent. Mom looked at me, her fork midair, eyes wide. Dad set his glass down slowly, processing the news. "That's a big step," Dad finally said, his voice cautious but not dismissive. "Tell us more about this plan of yours." I walked them through every detail, the market research, the funding I'd need, the growth potential. I even pulled out my laptop to show them the projections and the polished presentation I'd put together. They listened intently, asking questions and offering some initial advice. By the end of the night, I felt good about it all. They hadn't agreed to invest yet, but they seemed impressed and promised to think it over. It was the best I could have hoped for. As I was packing up my things, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation, my younger brother, Matt, clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Big moves, huh?" "I'm proud of you, man," he said, giving me a half smile. He'd been quiet most of the night, which I figured was just him being his usual self, more interested in his sales job and probably his next date than in family business talks. 2 weeks later, Mom called and invited me over for another dinner. Just a casual invitation, or so I thought. When I arrived, the setup was familiar, but the air felt different. Matt was there, which wasn't unusual, but he had a smirk on his face that I couldn't quite decipher. Halfway through dinner, he dropped a bombshell. "I've been thinking a lot since our last dinner," he began, all eyes suddenly on him. "And I've decided I'm going to start my own business, too." I choked on my water. "What?" I managed to cough out. "Yeah, a real estate business," he said, looking straight at me. "Figured it's about time I took a shot at it, too." "You really inspired me, man." His announcement felt like a punch to the gut. I was stunned, not just by his decision, but by the timing. It felt too coincidental, like stepping into some bizarre competitive reality show I hadn't signed up for. Our parents were quick to react, smiling and congratulating him. "That's wonderful, Matt!" Mom exclaimed, always the encourager. I tried to muster a smile, but it felt forced. The rest of the evening was a blur of Matt talking about his plans, which sounded eerily similar to mine, except it was clear he hadn't thought them through as thoroughly as I had. Matt's announcement hung over me like a dark cloud as I drove home that night. The more I thought about it, the more it gnawed at me. It wasn't just the shock of him diving into real estate, a field he'd never shown interest in before, but the timing. It felt like he saw the attention I got from our parents and decided he wanted in, no matter the cost. I tried to brush it off and focus on what I needed to do. After all, I had a business to build, and dwelling on Matt's sudden interest in real estate wouldn't help me secure investors or clients. But it was easier said than done. The idea that he might be trying to compete with me, or worse, outshine me, kept replaying in my mind. I needed to talk to someone, so I called my best friend, Joe, who had known me and Matt since we were kids. "Hey man, you got a minute?" I asked as soon as he picked up. "For you?" "Always. What's up?" Joe's voice was calm, a good sign he was probably just chilling at home. "It's about Matt. He's decided to start his own business too. In real estate," I rushed out, almost relieved to share it. There was a pause. "Isn't that what you're doing?" Joe asked, his tone laced with confusion. "Exactly," I sighed. "Feels like he's just doing this to one-up me. I mean, he's never even talked about real estate before this." Joe was quiet for a moment, probably thinking it over. "Do you think your parents will back him instead of you now?" he asked, hitting the heart of my worries. "I don't know, man. They seemed really pumped about his idea at dinner. It's like they were waiting for him to show interest in something like this." "That sucks," Joe said. "But you've been planning your business for months. You've got a solid plan and actual experience in the field. Don't let this throw you off." His words were meant to be encouraging, but they did little to ease the knot in my stomach. We talked a bit more, mostly Joe trying to cheer me up, but by the time we hung up, I felt only slightly better. The truth was, I had no idea how to handle this new twist in my already complicated family dynamics. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into my work, trying to distract myself from the looming threat of Matt's new business venture. I spent hours tweaking my business plan, reaching out to potential clients and scouting locations for development projects. I was determined to prove to my parents, or maybe to myself, that I could make this work, with or without their help. Meanwhile, Matt seemed to be moving full steam ahead with his own plans. I heard snippets from Mom whenever we talked on the phone, though I tried to steer the conversation away from business. "He's really excited about it," she'd say, her voice bright and full of pride. "He's been talking to some of your dad's business friends, getting advice and making connections." Each update felt like a punch in the gut. It was clear Matt was using every resource our parents had, something I'd hoped to do but now felt increasingly awkward about asking for. The unfairness of it all kept me up at night, the frustration simmering just below the surface. One evening, as I was reviewing legal documents for my business, I got a text from Matt out of the blue. It was casual, almost too casual, considering the circumstances. "Hey, just wanted to check in and see how your stuff is going. Maybe we can grab a beer sometime, talk shop," it read. I stared at the screen for a long time, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore it, still hurt by what I perceived as his betrayal, but another part, a smaller, quieter one, wondered if I was misreading the situation. Maybe he was just trying to make his own way, and it wasn't about competing with me at all. With a heavy sigh, I typed out a reply, "Sure, let's meet up this weekend." The meetup was awkward at first. We chose a local bar, neutral ground, and sat at a corner table with a couple of beers. Matt seemed genuinely happy to see me, clapping me on the back and grinning as he sat down. "So, how's the real estate mogul life treating you?" I asked, keeping my tone light. He chuckled, shrugging a little. "It's a lot to learn, man, but I'm getting there. What about you? Everything on track?" We talked business for a while, skirting around the tension between us. It was clear he was enthusiastic about his new path, his eyes lighting up as he discussed potential projects and what he'd learned so far. "It's crazy, you know? I never thought I'd be into this kind of thing, but after hearing you talk about it, I couldn't stop thinking about it," he said at one point, his tone earnest. I nodded, sipping my beer. "Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding." As the evening wore on, the initial stiffness eased a bit. It wasn't like old times, not really, but it was a start. At another family dinner a couple of weeks later, my parents dropped a bombshell of their own. They told me they could only invest in one of us, and if they had to choose, they'd bet on Matt. They explained that he also wanted to start a real estate business, even though he had no prior knowledge or interest in the field before my announcement. I was devastated when they said they wouldn't invest in my business and would instead back my brother. I sat there in silence, trying to process the news, when Matt decided to console me. His attempt was anything but comforting. It was downright condescending. He told me not to worry and even suggested I could join him, though it wouldn't be an equal partnership. He just wanted me to have something at the very least. I thought that was a horrible thing to say, especially when I was grappling with the fact that my parents clearly favored my brother. I'd always suspected it deep down, but having it confirmed hurt like hell. I lost my cool and got into a nasty fight with Matt. I accused him of stealing my ideas because he had none of his own, called him a copycat, and told him to get a personality that didn't revolve around me. I brought up incidents from our school days when he'd constantly try to mimic me and beat me at my own game, only to fail. I warned him that this time would be no different. Matt got mad, and rightfully so, and shot back that it wasn't his fault our parents preferred him because he was just better. It was petty and immature, and our parents tried to intervene, insisting they loved us equally but believed Matt had more business acumen. They even suggested I join him, as if I'd ever consider it. Matt went to business school, but I had real-world experience as a real estate agent. I knew what I was doing, he didn't. I couldn't understand why my parents assumed he'd be better at this without giving me a chance. The only explanation was that they had a favorite, and it wasn't me. Matt was the golden child, and there was no escaping that reality. After that day, I decided to cut off contact with my family. Their treatment felt insulting, like I was an idiot up to no good. It's been 6 months, and I haven't spoken to them. My parents tried reaching out a few times, but when I didn't respond, they stopped after a few weeks. I've avoided family events, even during the holidays, to prevent awkward encounters. I prefer it this way. However, about 2 weeks ago, something shocking happened. My girlfriend of nearly 3 years and I went on a weekend trip, a short romantic getaway where I planned to propose. A couple of hours after we arrived, she was in the shower, and I wanted to charge my phone but couldn't find it. I figured I'd left it at home, so I grabbed hers. It was on the charger, and I noticed she'd received several texts from my dad, whose contact she had saved by name. It was odd. I couldn't imagine why she'd be in touch with my parents, especially since I'd cut them off. Despite our strict no-snooping policy, I broke it just this once, and I'm glad I did. I had to guess her password since she'd changed it, but I figured it out on the second try. It was her sister's birthday, as they're very close. When I went through the texts, I was stunned. She'd been communicating with my dad for months, sending him pictures of my business plan, lists of investors, locations I wanted to set up, and other confidential business documents she knew were private. I worked out of our living room, so she had easy access to them. I was horrified to discover she was selling me out for money. After every piece of information she sent, my dad would specify an amount of money he'd sent her, and she'd confirm receipt. She wasn't just sharing business documents. She was also telling him who I met from the family, what I said about them, and even reporting when I spoke badly about him or Matt. For context, my girlfriend is a freelance writer who quit her stable job a few months after we started dating to pursue her career. I promised to support her until she could support herself, which hadn't happened yet. I covered her rent and expenses without complaint, never making her feel bad about it. She didn't borrow money for personal expenses, which I appreciated, but I played a huge role in ensuring she had a home and food. Her betrayal for extra cash felt insane, like something out of a poorly written movie. I was so disturbed that I decided to leave immediately. I hadn't unpacked, so I grabbed my stuff and headed to the hotel parking lot as fast as I could. Once everything was in the car, I started driving home. I didn't stop or check my phone until I'd put considerable distance between me and the hotel. After nearly 2 hours of driving, I stopped at a gas station, feeling nauseated and needing a soda. That's when I checked my phone and saw 10 missed calls and numerous texts from my girlfriend. She was panicking, asking where I was, if something was wrong, and saying she was worried. She urged me to come back and talk, suggesting she didn't realize I knew about her spying. I didn't know how to respond, so I decided to take a break and think things over. I was overwhelmed with feelings of betrayal, hurt, anger, and sadness. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to let them get the better of me. I turned around and drove back to the hotel with a plan in mind. When I returned, my girlfriend seemed genuinely happy to see me, but I knew the truth. I pretended everything was normal, though I was repulsed by her. I told her I'd been gone because I was planning something for her and had freaked out, needing time to calm down. She seemed confused until I got down on one knee and proposed, saying the thought of spending my life with her had helped me make sense of things. She was thrilled and accepted instantly, which made her betrayal even more surreal. She was willing to marry me while stabbing me in the back. After the proposal, I told her I wanted to reconnect with my parents to share the news, claiming I didn't want to get married without my family present and thought it was best to bury the hatchet. I wanted to see her reaction. She seemed momentarily put off but quickly recovered, encouraging me to make amends. I texted my parents while she spoke to her family about our engagement. They didn't reply for a day, but the next day my dad texted, saying he was happy I'd chosen to apologize and that they'd love to be part of my life again. I immediately started planning an engagement party, telling my girlfriend I'd handle it to make it a surprise. With the help of my event planner friend, I hosted the party at my house, inviting everyone we knew, including her family and friends. I kept it a secret until the last moment, and it definitely surprised her and my family. Once all the guests arrived, I made a speech, starting by thanking my girlfriend and family for their support. Then I revealed that I knew what they'd been up to for months. I made the speech as humiliating as possible, calling my girlfriend a sellout and reserving the harshest insults for my brother, whom I blamed as the root of it all. I told him that despite having access to my business ideas, it was sad that even his own parents had no faith in him. As the golden child, he still had to rely on me to succeed. I called them all pathetic and wanted everyone in our lives to know it. A week before the party, I had obtained screenshots of my girlfriend's texts with my dad from her phone, which was easy since I knew her password. I sneaked into her phone while she was asleep and deleted the evidence afterward. I had booklets made of the screenshots and distributed them to each guest after the speech to prove how spineless and psychotic they were. The guests were stunned, but my family and girlfriend were the most shocked. She left the room crying and refused to come out until everyone was gone. Most guests cleared out after the booklets were distributed, but my family stayed and tried to confront me. I told them to leave or I'd call the cops, warning that things would get uglier. They left, likely afraid of further embarrassment among relatives who had witnessed everything. It was bound to become the talk of the town. I didn't hear from my parents after that, but I had to talk to my girlfriend that night. She moved back in with her parents, but not before tearing into me, calling me a horrible person for humiliating her. She explained that she spied for my dad to fund her sister's medical school education, as her sister was about to graduate high school. I asked why she didn't ask me for the money, and she said she was too proud. My dad had told her he wanted the information to help me, but since I wouldn't speak to him, he had to resort to these tactics. She admitted she didn't consider he might be using it to help Matt, despite knowing our issues, and called herself stupid for not thinking it through. But she turned it around, saying what I did was psychotic. She realized I'd known about her spying since the proposal, and said I should have broken up with her then instead of orchestrating the humiliation. She admitted our relationship was over, but said she was glad I'd shown my true colors. She had planned to stop spying after our engagement, but that was our last conversation. Since the party, I haven't spoken to anyone and have focused on work and going home. I thought humiliating them would make me feel better, but it didn't. I feel like my girlfriend had a point. I came off worse in this scenario, and what I did was pretty extreme. I feel bad about it. So, am I the asshole for throwing the party just to humiliate her? IGA update, 1 IZA break. It's been 2 weeks since my ex and I broke up. Today, she came to grab some things she'd left behind. We didn't talk, and she acted like I wasn't there, which hurt but felt deserved. She did something incredibly wrong, giving me lifelong trust issues, and I humiliated her in front of her friends and family, so I guess we're even. It'll hurt for a while, but I don't think I can do anything about it now. I don't owe her an apology, that's for sure. Thanks for the advice, it helped me feel better about myself. As for my parents, they haven't contacted me, which is for the best. They have my business plans, which sucks, but there's not much I can do. I hope my brother does the decent thing and doesn't use them, but after the way I humiliated him, I doubt he'll hold back. Things look bleak for my business, but I hope I'll get through it somehow. UL update, 2 heartbreak. It's been almost a month since the last update, and I've embarked on a new business journey today. Setting up a business takes time, but I'm excited to do something I love. All the planning and hours I've put in are finally paying off. It also helps take my mind off my ex. She did me wrong, but I still miss the good times we had. I'm in therapy, working through the trauma and processing my feelings. It's tough, but with my job to look forward to, I feel like things are looking up. No news about my brother, but if I've established my business before him, I have a head start, and I plan to make the most of it. Fingers crossed. ULF update, 3 EAS 8 E. I recently learned that my family is moving away because my brother is establishing his business in another state to avoid rivalry. He told me this in a long email, saying he was sorry I wasn't mentally stable enough to handle my emotions like a rational adult, and thought it was okay to throw parties to humiliate people just because I was bad at confrontation. He claimed I just wanted attention, despite having no qualities to justify it, but wished me the best and asked me to stay away from him and our parents. It's been nearly 3 months since the engagement party, and I'm starting to process everything better. I heard my ex is dating again, and I'm moving on too. My business is doing all right, and with time, I'll be fine. DEFA update 4 YWA broke. It's been 6 months since my family moved away, and life has taken some unexpected turns. My business is thriving now. I've secured a few small development projects that are turning heads in the local market. Without the shadow of competition from Matt, I've been able to innovate freely, incorporating sustainable designs that set me apart. Last month, I even landed a partnership with a green tech firm, which has boosted my revenue beyond what I projected. It feels vindicating, like all the betrayal fueled my drive to succeed on my own terms. Therapy has been a game changer. I've unpacked a lot of the resentment toward my parents and Matt, realizing that their favoritism stemmed from their own insecurities. My therapist helped me see that cutting ties was necessary for my mental health, but holding on to anger was only hurting me. I've started journaling, which has turned into a side hobby. Maybe even a book one day about family dynamics in entrepreneurship. As for my ex, I ran into her at a coffee shop recently. She was with a new guy, looking happy. We exchanged awkward hellos, and she mentioned she's back in a stable job, no longer freelancing. Part of me felt a pang of regret for the humiliation, but I reminded myself her actions justified the end of us. I've started dating again too, casually. Met someone through a networking event who's supportive and shares my ambition. No secrets, no drama. Matt emailed once more, surprisingly apologetic. He admitted his business is struggling in the new state. Turns out, without my ideas to copy, he's facing real challenges. He asked for advice, but I politely declined, suggesting he find his own path. It was closure, in a way. My parents haven't reached out, and I'm okay with that. I've built a new family through friends and colleagues who value me. Looking back, the whole ordeal taught me resilience. Success isn't about revenge, it's about rising above. I'm planning a solo trip next month to celebrate my wins. Life's too short for grudges. Time to build that empire, one brick at a time. Avo update 5 a year break. A year after the party, everything's come full circle. My property development firm just broke ground on its first major project, a eco-friendly apartment complex that's already 70% pre-sold. The media coverage has been amazing, with articles highlighting my journey from real estate agent to independent developer. Ironically, one piece mentioned overcoming family obstacles, which felt like subtle shade without naming names. I've reconnected with extended family, cousins and aunts who heard about the drama but stayed neutral. They invited me to a reunion, and it was refreshing to feel supported without the toxic favoritism. Matt's business folded. From what I heard through the grapevine, he pivoted to something else, maybe sales again. My parents sold the dealership and retired early. Mom sent a card for my birthday, but I didn't respond. Boundaries are key. On the personal front, my new relationship is going strong. She's a graphic designer, and we've collaborated on branding for my business. It's healthy, equal, and fun. Therapy wrapped up, but I still practice mindfulness to keep trust issues at bay. I've even volunteered to mentor young entrepreneurs, sharing lessons on integrity and self-reliance. If there's one takeaway, it's that betrayal can be a catalyst. I wouldn't change the past, it shaped who I am. Here's to new beginnings. No more golden children, just golden opportunities.